Hi, and welcome to the Cinefiles. Now, I know what you're thinking. What the hell is going on? Who is that handsome guy on TV? And where the hell is Edwin? Well, one thing I want to tell everyone is Edwin had a mishap at the tanning salon, so he will not make it for this episode. But in the meantime, I will take the reins of the show, which I know a lot of my fans out there would just, they were dying for this moment, especially Munox from Italy. I am Michael Foltz, and my partners in crime are as follows. We have Jeff Galashaw. On the far end is another regular panelist, usually the center square, Eric Cohen, and our very, very special guest, the first ever Cinephiles Reserve, Mr. Andre Joseph.
Technically, he's the second Cinefiles Reserve. I was the first Cinefiles Reserve.
You're no longer a scab. You haven't been a scab for I think it's 47 days and counting. And you know something? A lot of times people will see on TV a very special edition of one of their favorite shows. This is a very special edition of the Cinephiles because instead of reviewing movies that a lot of us have seen and will probably never meet the filmmaker, in this case, we will review a film and we will not only meet the filmmaker, but he'll get to say his piece on this particular film, which would be our special guest, Mr. Andre Joseph. Andre, say hi to our fans out there.
Yeah, hello, and I'm glad to be here on the Cinefiles. Great show. Been loving it for quite a while now. Hope you guys take it easy with my film, obviously, because I just got in the can. So,
Andre is responsible for putting out a feature film called Priceless, which, first of all, Andre, how long has this been your labor of love?
Probably about 2 years now, beginning with 2006 when I began writing the script. And basically the concept came about because Casino Royale was just about to come out. The trailers had just hit. And basically I was just thinking in my mind as I was trying to prepare another project, I kept thinking about the Bond films and the first 20 before Daniel Craig became Bond, and thought to myself, what if James Bond decided, well, what if I wanted to give it all up? What if I wanted to get away from all the danger, actually commit to a woman instead of having to sleep with each and every one of them in every 20 movies that there are, and actually have a normal existence? So I came up with this concept based on an older script that I wrote that never got produced. And basically the idea would be like a jewel thief who thinks he's like James Bond because he's sleeping with women every night a week, stealing jewels, living a dangerous lifestyle, but making good money out of it. But it's not fulfilling him deep down. He doesn't feel like he's a real human being anymore. So now he wants to give that all up, decides to take up one more heist involving a Fabergé egg that would definitely send him into retirement, but he has to steal from the Russian mob. Now obviously that goes wrong, so in order to kind of lay low, like in Grosse Point Blank, he goes back to his hometown and runs into his old girlfriend from high school, Diana, and basically sees that this is the girl of his life. This is the one who could treat him like a human being that he could settle down with. But now she's a single mom, and therefore it's difficult for him to try to get back with her and to reconnect because of the fact that she doesn't see him as a changed man, and he's trying to prove that even though she's with this basketball player who really doesn't give two craps about her, is just using her for his own ego. And while all that's going on, next thing you know, the Russian mob is also on his tail trying to get this egg. And you have some hijinks and some craziness that goes on towards the third act. But essentially it's a romantic drama, geared to like teens to adults. And I enjoyed making it for the most part.
It might be educational for our viewers to know the production side of it. When you came up with the idea for the story, the script, did you intend to direct and produce it yourself? Or was there a point where you thought, I'm just going to make this myself? Was there a period where you tried to pitch it?
Well, basically, the movie I had done before this, which I don't even want to mention.
Hey, you might as well.
It was...
Our 4 fans will be concerned.
I won't try to shoot too much about it, but I did a film called The Evil Society, which was a sci-fi thriller I did back in 2005, which was my homage to John Carpenter. And It was a decent film. The actors were fantastic, and I always appreciated their work. But there were things that went on behind the scenes, a lot of times where I just didn't have much control of the film as much as I would have liked. So when I decided to do Priceless, I knew pretty much that I wanted to be somewhat ambitious, but within reason. So,
Like what went wrong behind the scenes? Anything juicy?
nothing I would get too specific about, except, just people I had on my side who I expected to try to learn from and, try to gain their advice and hope that I could get good actors and so forth, who basically, once the camera started rolling, they started to try to take control from me, and it was difficult because I didn't have good people on my
Now,
side.
this obviously, the point I was getting to, obviously this was an experience that you probably learned from, and you took
yeah.
that wealth of information to your next project.
Right, so basically once I did start preparing the film, I knew I wanted to get the right people on my side. So of course I have my father, Alfred Joseph, hello, who was my executive producer on the project, and my good friend Albert Albanese, who helped me also produce the film. And he was there every step of the way. He was a guy who wasn't exactly the most experienced, but he had worked with me on previous projects before this, mainly stuff just on high video with my friends. And he really stepped up and learned a lot from the crew that we had involved. And my cinematographer, Woodley Aurelius, who just completed a film recently, and he was there on my side without a doubt, knows his lighting perfectly, knows his shots, a guy I could trust with the camera while I was behind the scenes. So
how'd you hook up with Woodley?
Well, Woodley worked with me on Evil Society. He was the gaffer on the film, the lighting technician for all you film buffs. And basically, I decided, because I loved working with him so much and had seen some of his previous work on his website, I decided to upgrade him to my DP. And
How'd you find him in the first place?
Craigslist.
Really?
And Craigslist, I tell you, if you're starting as an independent filmmaker, I simply advise you to use it because you could get some really good actors, very good crew, and the work is out there. People want to go out and they want to work in the movies. So, you just put out a good ad and sell yourself. You're guaranteed to get tons of responses.
So just rewinding a little bit, obviously you had to create a budget for this going into it.
Right. Well, the budget was kind of, how should I say? Initially, I wanted to try to make the movie for at least under 10 grand because I wasn't expecting to get into SAG actors and other things that would have complicated the project. So I wasn't going to go and try to run trailers and try to Hollywoodize the movie. I wanted to keep it on scale. But
Did that affect your script any? Keeping that idea?
Not exactly. I mean, things did happen, of course. There were, at times, the usual delays or actors not being able to make it on certain days because of commitments or, just whatever issues that they might have had personally. But not necessarily. I mean, the budget was the budget itself. Put it this way, once I got closer to production, I think that's when a lot of the reality started to hit as far as not just using SAG actors, which I had to do for some of the actors that I had in the film, but also when it came to insurance, equipment rental, and basically some of the other expenditures that raised my budget up to a level where it became difficult afterwards as far as post-production was concerned, which is another story in itself, which we'll get into later. But, I mean, the money that I was able to get through investors and from my own savings, it helped a lot big time because I was able to get a really strong crew involved that...
Were you paying the crew?
Yes, so every single crew member was basically paid in the project. And they put out the effort, 100% all the way. Granted, they're not the type that's just going to go and read the script and be like, oh yeah, I love it, but they're going to put out the effort for me, but not necessarily because they're getting paid, but they know it's a good opportunity, it's a good experience, and basically, they really went all out for me as well.
Wait, nobody liked the script in your crew? What happened?
No, they how should I say?
Well, first off, before you answer that question, maybe this will serve, because this is the thing I'm most intrigued by. Not only did you direct it and produce it and write the script, but you cast yourself as the lead actor.
Right.
Now, was that because you wrote that part with you in mind for playing it, or was it just out of economic necessity that I might as well put myself in this part because?
I mean, there were aspects about the character as far as the personality that I brought to the table with that character, well, my personality to that character. And, you know, I guess it's probably a habit from just making the high 8 movies that I used to make with my friends where, you know, everybody else was just kind of like goofing off and, you know, trying to make light of what I would try to do. But for me, I took it a little bit more personally, more seriously than anybody else that I worked with. So I always felt that, you know, it wasn't always like an issue of ego, but necessarily who can do justice to this part. Now, I could have found a really strong actor to play the part and try to work with that guy, but I basically felt like if I put myself in those shoes and try to bring out those emotions and the feelings that I had as I wrote the script, then I think I could really situate myself in each of those moments and know exactly where this character is at from start to finish. So that's basically why I chose to act in it.
So what was it like directing yourself, or did you have someone in the wings there to like, okay, I'm watching over these guys' performances, but I need you to watch over mine? Because I have no idea what I'm doing here in front of the camera sometimes. I don't know if it's working out well, or did you just pretty much review what you just saw and sort of directed your performance based on that?
Well, you know, I mean, a lot of guys, well, actors, directors, or at least actors who direct and act, they'll go and they'll tell you pretty much half the time how difficult it is. And it's true, it is a pain in the ass to do. But my feeling was I always took inspiration from Clint Eastwood. You know, I've been a big Eastwood fan as a kid.
I was so happy you didn't say Eric Schaefer.
Oh,
Sorry. Clint Eastwood, go on.
yeah, so I mean, Clint Eastwood really was the one who inspired me as far as being a really strong director and also being able to put himself in his own films and really bring some good quality to the project. So for me, it was more or less a situation where once I knew who my crew was, I sat down with all of them. We had like a few meetings, and basically I told them pretty much, this is what I want for each scene. This is how I want to be mapped out, how I want to be lit, how I want to be shot. And of course, there will be some spontaneity, like things that we discover on the spot. And I go and say, well, we could do the shot this way instead of the way I had it planned before. But in the end, I trusted my faith as far as the crew to 2 people, to my DP, Woodley, because he's the one that's really seeing what's going on behind the camera. But I would always make sure, like I would have a stand-in so that I could see exactly where my position should be during the shot. But I trusted him with the vision when I was acting in front of the camera.
He was your DP and your assistant director, essentially.
He was doing a little bit of both, or at least for the most part, the DP work. But my friend Albert eventually became like the main AD. He's the one that separated the actors from the crew and made sure that whatever I had communicated, whether it was to try to get things done on time or, you know, trying to get the ETA on the actors, I trusted him as far as managing the crew when I had to be more focused with my performance.
I don't know if you mind me asking, but what was the final budget of the film? Because the production values look very good.
Essentially, the budget came about 30 grand and counting.
Okay.
Because of course there's those post-production costs that come into factor, as well as, you know, eventually festivals and things like that that have to be taken care of afterwards. I mean, I've been meeting with a very good accountant. I won't go into his name, but he's a very good accountant of mine, so I've been kind of like learning the ropes from him as I've been going about with the final product.
Okay, now how do you go from, like, working finances-wise, what happens when your budget goes from 10 and gets blown up to 30 plus? I mean, I would think that maybe some filmmakers out there, myself included, would hit the panic button. Like, oh shit, I don't have, you know, I don't have an extra 25 grand. How does one handle that on the fly?
Well, I mean, I was very fortunate because there was a point where there was like a time where I had to hit the panic button, or almost had to hit the panic button. It was halfway through filming where we just started to see where, you know, the numbers going up with paying the actors, the SAG actors, and you know, the equipment rentals. But fortunately, I had some really good investors who came through for me at the right times, who basically came in and were able to donate enough to try to keep me going by. And of course, my crew was also able to help out as much as possible. And it was also a matter of cutting corners. So if it was one of those situations where I would have to stop just so I could get some money together, then I would have to do that, like stop for like a week or two in order to try to get the funds up.
Well, how does one do that, though? I mean, like I would, you stop because you run out of money. Give me 2 weeks, I'm gonna get more. How do you like get more money in 2 weeks?
And don't say you went to Phil Rizzuto in the money store, because that doesn't work anymore. He's dead.
I was gonna say you didn't give blood.
Oh no, I didn't give blood, nor did I have to
Donate
prostitute
sperm.
myself.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, no male prostitution.
No, I that it really just comes down to my dad. I mean, I don't want to sound like I got a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that, because I don't. But he came through a lot of the times where it was most necessary, whether it was helping me to find investors that he knew of, or to just simply go into our pockets. You know, even my grandfather's, the money he gave me after he passed on to get a house, which I don't think is going to happen in a while, especially with all the foreclosures going on in this country. So, I had to like really go through those private expenses in order to try to keep the project going half the time. I don't recommend it to people, because it is difficult, but for what I had to do, because I was passionate about the story and trying to get this movie made, I had to take those kind of risks in order to kind of keep things going.
Okay, now I have a couple of questions right here on casting. First of all, how did you get Robert Kelly? And if I have his name right, correct?
Robert Clahessy?
Yes,
Yes.
From Oz.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know also.
Because that was really shocking, because
Exactly.
he's a really known guy, especially anybody that's a fan of the prison series from HBO, Oz. He plays one of the security guards. He's actually the prison guard that has the affair with Edie Falco.
That's right.
His character from Oz. But he's a really he's a fantastic
He's
actor.
done a lot of Law and Order. I've seen it. I
Exactly.
saw him in stage. A few 12 Angry Men. He was in that
Great,
production
great
recently.
actor. Great actor. And how'd you get him?
Bob was great. I mean, that really was where it came down to my casting director, Donna McKenna. She was the one who helped me to cast Clahessy, as well as Anthony Mangano, who plays Ike in the film, among some of the other actors. And
Ike was great. Yeah, he was great. He was a character.
Yeah, Mangano, he was fun to work with. I'm not gonna lie. Having done Rescue Me and NYPD Blue, he was a really cool Ike for the role. Not exactly what I had envisioned originally, because the way he was written in the script, he was more like a Jeffrey Wright type of character. Very much stab you in the back, but more vicious. But he played it off more like
A bitchy gay guy.
yeah, a bitchy
Who
gay
looks
guy,
like a big
essentially.
Guido.
Yeah, and it was his. He came up with a lot of ideas for his character, as far as the muscles, the tattoos, and just his whole look, his whole dynamic. And it was very important to me, like, that we would have that sort of rapport at the beginning, like where we've worked with each other for a couple of years, but then eventually there was that 180 turn that the audience, well, they may expect it, but it's sort of like you expect them to be like the best friend or the gay best friend, but then ultimately we twist that on its head. Sort of like a throwback to a lot of film noir movies, with like Edward G. Robinson playing like the gay villain, but doesn't say he's gay, but from his hand gestures, his motions, you could obviously imply that he's
Yeah,
homosexual.
like what's his name? Guy from Strangers on a Train.
Exactly. As well as the villains in Diamonds Are Forever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that was a little more overt.
Yes. Yeah.
When
Mr.
they're
Went and
holding
Mr.
hands
Kid.
and stuff.
Now, but okay. So how did you get Robert Glassy just for like the one day?
With Clahessy, basically, the part he played, we're considering a serious amount of actors, a lot of unknowns. But Donna basically felt that he could probably bring some energy to the scene. And I had known Robert from watching Oz and watching him on Hill Street Blues and a lot of TV shows and movies he's done, Interpreter, 16 Blocks. So once I heard that he was interested, I said, yeah, let's definitely get him. So he came through, and I had a really good time working with him. He was a lot of fun, a lot of improv, a lot of energy, and
Worked for one day, right?
yeah, he only worked for one day, but even for that one day, he just was happy to be there. He was just happy to work, and that's the kind of people that I like to work with.
Okay, I have a question. I guess it's a W.C. Fields a quote that it's never good to work with children or animals. So I just want to know, as like a starting out director, how was it that you got such a good performance from a child actor?
Oh, Shelby?
Yes.
Yeah, Shelby Reitman. Well, that's a very interesting story. When we were casting the film, we casted the Diana character and the Sandy character. We casted it 2 weeks before we started production. So we did our auditions here in Manhattan, and we were auditioning all these girls, and they were giving pretty good reads, but Shelby was like the last girl.
Sorry
Somehow
about
all of
that.
a sudden we're like
Being attacked by a fly.
yeah, we're like in an Ethiopian refugee camp all of a sudden with the one fly. Go on.
Yeah,
Sorry
so no
I will
problem.
kill that fly by show's end. I really will.
But
Anyway.
yeah, Shelby was the last person who came in, and I can never forget when she came in, and basically, Donna was talking about what the film was about and stuff, and she asked the first question, and that was, what's the relationship between Lando and Sandy? And then we knew right there, and then after she read, that she was the right one. As soon as she walked out the door, we said, I want this girl for this part. And when she came in, no disappointments whatsoever. She was a consummate professional. I mean, I've worked with other projects where I have seen kids that have been difficult. I'm not movies necessarily of my own, but movies that I've worked on as a student filmmaker, where it's sometimes hard to control the kids because they'll break out into tears, or once the lights turn on, then they just can't stop talking. So she was just on point with every single scene, and she knew the emotions of the character for each particular moment. She knew the relations between Lando and herself and with her mom, Diana. And, she was on point with every single scene. I mean, it was incredible. And I had no difficulties with her as far as working with her. I mean, I just hope she really does continue on with this profession because she is a real natural.
Okay, hopefully these two guys will agree with me, but now this is, and I'm gonna put in, it's gonna be a 2 for 2 here, because I have a criticism here of the film, but I also have, and they're kind of linked here. 2 of your casting choices were absolutely horrible.
No.
the old guy at the beginning, he's actually
Landlord.
a young
Yes.
guy, but he plays an old guy, and the Russian mob boss.
Oh, AJ?
Yeah, but Diana is a superstar.
Yes.
That girl is a superstar. That was a find.
Tasha Perry.
And Uncle Bill, what a character. Tell me about these 4.
Okay, well, the Sammy character played by Johnny Bianco, the way he was envisioned, he was supposed to be like a takeoff of Danny DeVito's character on Taxi originally. I take some blame in myself as far as that character goes, because I was so focused with a lot of the other scenes. Like, basically that character sort of came about the last minute as I was writing it, because I was trying to give more of a motivation for Lando to go out and try to do this last heist. So I don't think I really, and this is just my own honest opinion, I don't think I really thought the character out as well as I would have liked to have. But I mean, for the purpose of it, to make him this despicable, ratty kind of, Yenti Jewish landlord, I mean, I thought he put together a pretty decent performance, and it was kind of a fun thing to do, like just the back and forth that we have at the very beginning of the film.
Now, AJ.
Okay, now with AJ, AJ I actually had met on a show similar to this. It was a rock show out in Staten Island on Staten Island Cable, and originally he wasn't even cast as the boss. We had another actor who ultimately had to drop out because of other commitments. So I had a pretty good vibe with AJ and felt like he could probably play, like I was looking for someone who could bring some intensity, especially with the boxing part, because he's an ex-Russian boxer turned mobster. So I decided to bring AJ in for that particular role. And I mean, there's obviously going to be critics. I mean, hell, I've seen people criticize Rocky IV for, the bad dialect with the Russian language, So, I mean, to speak in AJ's defense, he put out an effort. I wasn't looking to do Eastern Promises. I was basically just trying to make my own satire of the Russian mob, not necessarily try to go hardcore with it.
And we got 1 minute left. Tell me quickly about Uncle Bill.
Okay, Uncle Bill, Bernard Purdy. Bernard I actually met through Johnny, and not only acts in the film, but also does the musical score. And basically, my original choice was Ernie Hudson, and I had actually spoken to Ernie Hudson on the phone. Of course, things weren't going to work out because he was working on Desperate Housewives as a guest star. So Donna had suggested to me, what about Bernard? And I'm like, I don't know, he's just a musician. So I ended up meeting with him one day, asked him about the part, and then I had him read. And after one page, I said, okay, you got the part, because I just felt the character the way he was written in the script. So I really loved working with Bernard. He was a real gentleman, real classy, and just a lot of fun.
All right, Eric, Jeff, what are your final words on Priceless?
My final words are support an independent New York filmmaker. See Priceless. It's in the can. Hopefully,
We got a premiere next month.
right. We got a premiere next month. Now, how's it going with the festivals and all that stuff? Very quickly, you got any bites? Are you getting it out there?
It's a work in progress as we speak. I have some legal things to take care of before I start to try to get into Tribeca Film Festival, Staten Island Film Festival, next year's American Black Film Festival in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So it's definitely a work in progress as we speak, but it's just, we're going to make those announcements very soon on the website.
Jeff?
I thought it was an excellent film, and I look forward to seeing more features from you in the future, as well as more guest spots here. But I just really enjoyed the film, and speaking as a black person, I should say that it's something nice to see where it's not all, even though it has a crime element, it's not all about gangsters or thugs and all that. It's nice to see an intelligent black character on the screen and a nice black love story that's not played as comedy for once.
Yeah, thank you.
And I will say, not only do I think your lead performance is better than Spike Lee's from She's Gotta Have It, but I think your cinematographer was excellent, and you got some really great performances. And we didn't really give her enough credit on this, but I still think Diane, the girl that played Diana, your lead actress,
Yes.
she's a real find, and you got some really great actors. But anyway, we're wrapping up. So for our fans out there, the Cinephiles, check out Priceless, directed by Andre Joseph, and we shall see you next week.
Goodbye.
I have to pee so fucking bad. It's like freezing in here.
Hurry up!
Venti-sized coffee.
How'd that go?